If you like this video, subscribe to my channel, but let's get right to it. I am going to be dropping spoilers left and right, so if you do not or have not seen Avengers Endgame, do not watch this video or come back later, okay? But here's the bottom line. I'm spoiling it. Here we go. I'm giving my thoughts. I really love this movie. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was a great sequel to Avengers Infinity War. All right, so let me just start this by saying my two favorite Marvel characters throughout the entire Marvel franchise has been Captain America, he's number one, and Iron Man, Tony Stark. I knew going in that this was going to be wrapping up their storylines. One, they can't keep paying Robert Downey Jr. 50, 60 million a picture. You know, that's almost the budget of a small movie. And, you know, I think Chris Evans was just ready to move on because he wants to direct and do other things. And so I think he was happy to kind of bow out and not be dragged along in this thing any longer. So I knew going in we were going to lose them. How we were going to lose them, I had no idea. I was really hoping that I thought for sure Captain America was going to die. I had my money on it. I was like, they're going to kill him, and then they're going to let Bucky be the new Captain America, because that's what the comic books did. And of course, it threw me for some big surprises. But I'll tell you what, I figured it out. So the minute they went back in time and Captain America saw Peggy through the glass, I knew then, because he had that stuff from Dr. Ping, that he was going to go back and he was going to live his life with her. I knew it. I said, you know what? If they win the battle, he's going back and he's not going to return. And so I had a sigh of relief when I saw that. The foreshadowing was just, it was beautiful. It was there. It was subtle. If you didn't pick up on it, you know, I saw it because, you know, as an actor and as a person who works in the film industry, I saw the foreshadowing. I knew it was there. Tony, I didn't think was going to make it at all, but how he died, I didn't know how he was going to die. I loved how most of the movie, it felt like the movie didn't have a lot of action in it like Infinity War or like Captain America Civil War and some of the other ones. There was so much, you know, the scenes with Tony Stark and his father and you know, all the different characters really being fleshed out for the first maybe 2 hours. The action really didn't start just jamming until the last hour. And so for me, I loved it because you needed that exposition to really wrap up storylines. You know, you couldn't just do it and just have nothing but battles going on the whole time. The end battle scene was amazing. I loved everything that was going on. There were still a couple of little confusing things for me. Not really confusing, but I thought Captain Marvel was going to play a bigger part in the film. And it seemed like, you know, she just flew through Thanos' ship and destroyed it and did a couple of things on the ground and then fought Thanos for a second. And I thought, okay, she's going to be the one to take him out. And then he punched her and she went flying and then kind of disappeared for the rest of the battle. Like, you really didn't see her after that, except, you know, and I think maybe that scene with all the female characters approaching and flanking from the right that one time, I think she was in that. But like, that was a pretty cool shot. You know, I realized there's a little narrative there, but that's okay. You know, you gotta get everybody excited about you know, all the female characters as well. You know, I liked the storyline with Tony Stark and his daughter and all that. And then, you know, when Tony died, it was very sad. And, you know, Tom Holland really played that up as Spider-Man, Mr. Stark, and he was crying, all this kind of stuff. You know, it was very emotional. But at the same time, when Tony appeared in the hologram later, explaining, hey, look, we've done this time jump, I'm going to go back, I'm doing this, and he was saying how much he loved and cared about his life and blah, blah, like those kind of things, like that gave it closure, where it wasn't like that was the last time you ever saw Tony Stark. You saw him in the hologram and you're like, okay, you know, we get what he did and all that. And, you know, when Doctor Strange pulled up the one finger, and looked at Tony Stark, 14 million outcomes and they never win but once, and the one time was Tony had to take it for the team, and he knew that. And I liked Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, like in the comic books with the glasses where he was a hybrid of both. That was really cool how he became one instead of just not being able to control the Hulk. Thor really was the scene stealer in all the movies with his Big Lebowski outfit, all beer gutted out and everything. He was funny. He was really, really funny. I like at the end that they kind of put him with the Guardians of the Galaxy. The whole thing with Gamora dying in the last movie and then being able to come back in this movie. And I remember hearing they had said that the Guardians of the Galaxy will be back, but they won't necessarily be the same. But, it's almost like what happened. It's good that they've rebooted this to where Gamora isn't in love with Quill again. And I'll tell you why. My thinking is because it's like jumping the shark. The X-Files did this. They waited till season 6 before there was ever a romance between Scully and Mulder. And that's important, to have that tension there, but not go there. Because once you go there, then it's babies, it's marriage, it's like, and then there's nothing left to do, like as far as the characters go. So I thought it was good that they kind of did a soft reboot on that. So maybe, Quill will be pining after her, but she's not going to be interested. And then maybe they'll move on and go their separate ways in relationship-wise, but still be the Guardians of the Galaxy, because doing that romance and pushing that narrative, it wasn't going anywhere, So we'll see how it all shakes out. Groot was back. Everybody's character was great. I feel like they did a great job after 21 films, this 22nd film, just wrapping everything up. When I look back, like I've looked at Phase 4, what they're releasing for Phase 4, and I don't know if I'm excited for Nova or excited for Eternals or excited. Like for me, the one thing that kept me coming back was Tony Stark and Captain America. And now that both of these guys are done and they're out of the loop, I'm trying to figure out how to get excited about it. Now, I like Guardians of the Galaxy, but I didn't go see either one of those in the theater. I waited till they were streaming and watched them later. Same thing with Ant-Man. I've said this before in other videos. I didn't see Ant-Man or Ant-Man and the Wasp in the theater. I streamed them later. I haven't seen Captain Marvel. I'll probably see it and stream it later. There are just certain Marvel characters that I don't gravitate towards, so I don't feel the need to see them on the big screen. Now, if I noticed there wasn't a Thor film in Phase 4, and I hope they put one in because I loved Thor Ragnarok. I love Thor's camaraderie, and it looks like maybe he might be in the Guardians of the Galaxy film since he left with those guys and left Asgard to be controlled by the new queen. And so, we'll see what happens there. I hope they do another Thor film. I loved in Endgame, all the scenes where they flash back and he met his mother again and had some sort of resolution there. So, maybe it healed him. I loved how they brought back, they did Natalie Portman. It looked like Natalie Portman was in one scene. And it's like they brought back all these people and peppered them in. And everyone talks about that massive shot, the several shots in the film where the camera would pan, it would just get on everybody's faces and all this other kind of stuff. And I talked to a friend of mine on set and the movie that we're working on now, and he said to me, it must have been the most expensive shot ever put together because they were all there. And then one of the other workers that she worked on Infinity Wars and I think the last 4 Avengers movies, and she told me that that day that they shot that scene, it was crazy because every one of the actors had their own entourage. So if you can, their own hair, makeup, wardrobe. They had all their own people on set to take care of them, and so there was, it looked like a couple of hundred people on set for every actor. They had their own entourage, their own publicist, their own, and everybody came, and so it was this big sea of people when they were trying to put together those shots. Some of it looked like, as the camera panned through, that people were composited, so maybe they were shot separately in green screen and then placed in the montage. I think that might have been the case with some of them. Maybe some of them couldn't make it. You know, I don't know if like Michael Douglas was able to get there, and so that stuff was put in there later. It was neat that they had the kid from Iron Man 3, who is now grown up, at the funeral. I thought that was interesting. I'll digress and go back to Captain America. I love that Bucky kind of knew he wasn't coming back. But in their time, it was like this, and then he's sitting on the bench. But in Captain America's time, he was gone for 60 years in that alternate timeline. So what's cool is, if they really wanted to bring back, if Marvel starts seeing that the proceeds aren't coming in from all these new films, and they're not knocking it out of the park with $800 million movies or $1 billion movies going forward, they've got a 60-year window that we don't know what Captain America was doing in the alternate timeline. So they've kind of set it up that they can do this and bring back Captain America for like an expanded universe kind of situation, where he'll fight whoever and whatever that's going on there. You know, the big thing was Scarlett Johansson being thrown off the cliff. You know, she's dead. You know, there's no time travel that can fix it. You know, it wasn't part of the snap. So, you know, I realized that they've got a Black Widow film in the pipeline. And with that being the case, I'm assuming it's going to be a prequel. Maybe it'll show how she became Black Widow or something like that, like they kind of did with Captain Marvel, and go backwards. But, you know, I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see how they do it, but I think that's the only way they can do it at this point. You know, the thing I was talking with my friend about is all the time travel. It just kind of opens this Pandora's box that, like, no matter what happens, it's like, oh, we could go back in time and fix it now. You know, and who's to say, like, they can't solve a problem in the future, in a future movie like Eternals or something. And of course it was the brilliant mind of Tony Stark that figured it out, and that they could go back, you know, and meet up with Tony Stark at a different point in his life and go, look, you know, we can't explain this, but we're from the future and you helped us fix this, and you're the only one that we know can do it. And so with that being said, like, maybe Tony, there is some opportunities for him to come back, or, you know, other people were saying he could be an AI like Jarvis, and maybe his daughter will grow up and take on a female version of Iron Man, or, you know, Iron Woman, and maybe the AI within her visor in her suit could be a version of Tony Stark. And then, you know, Robert Downey Jr. comes back as just a voice and could do the voiceover and be witty and smart and all that other kind of stuff, but never have to really do the work that goes into making an actual feature film. So there's all these possibilities, you know, and with these comic book movies, you never say never when it comes to people dying and coming back. I mean, look what happened to Red Skull. You know, he goes from, you know, dying, you know, because in Captain America, but then he's a ghost, you know, and so it's like they can do it if they want to. I think money is going to dictate whether or not they bring any of these characters back. But anyway, so it's just kind of interesting because now they're going to do Scarlet Witch and Vision, and I'm assuming it's going to take place in the 3 years that they were absent after they went off the grid, and then we caught up with them right at the original Infinity Wars, the first Avengers Infinity War movie, not Endgame, and so there's a lot of ground to cover the 3 years there. So that's the thing. I feel like with all these cinematic universes, they can pick other places in time and still tell really great stories. Thanos going out the way he did, it was great. Everybody that poured in the end battle scene was just epic. There was so much going on. Spider-Man in that attack mode with all his legs stabbing all the creatures. That was just badass. Just everything. I mean, this movie was 3 hours long. I could go on and on and on about this film and all the things that I loved about it. But, you know, I have to say, Captain America coming back old, giving the shield to the Falcon, which is, you know, the comic books, Bucky got it first. Bucky was the first the Captain America to take over, and then it was the Falcon. So for them to pass the shield to the Falcon, Bucky, you know, will have to wait his turn. But then Disney Plus is doing a, you know, Bucky and Falcon series. So they're developing it. So now we're going to have the adventures of those guys. And, you know, they may not be in any of the films going forward in Phase 4, but they'll have their own TV show, limited series. And the way they shoot these things with these $10 million budgets, it's like shooting a feature film. If you do 10 episodes, you spend $100 million making an epic series where you can flesh out characters. And the only thing that is a little weird about the Falcon is he's just a guy with a jetpack. I mean, basically, and he has no superpowers. He's not a super soldier, no super serum, no anything. So for him to get the shield before Bucky, because Bucky is a super soldier, had the serum in him and has the arm, and he kind of is a superhero. You know, Falcon is mortal. So we have to figure out what they do to make him more powerful to become like a Captain America. Do they give him the serum? Do they, you know, we'll see how that plays out in their series, because I mean, it just seems like, just like Rhodey, they're, you know, they can get hurt, they can get killed. You know, Rhodey's paralyzed, you know, can't walk without the Tony Stark robot legs, you know, the things that are on his legs that make his muscles move. So they have to figure that one out, crack that egg, and figure that out. All right, we're going on 18 minutes of me rambling now. There's so much to talk about. Go see the movie. Enjoy the hell out of it. I loved it. It was a great way to end 20-plus movies and tying up all their storylines. Absolutely loved it. My hat's off to the Russo brothers. Hats off to just Marvel in general to do this. You know, DC can't touch you. You guys are just killing it. Disney, keep up the great work. Love you guys.